Where does the word come from? Well, atonement is a made-up word. But it was coined by William Tyndale, who died in 1536. Now, Tyndale was one of the first to translate the Bible into English, and his was what became the basis for the King James. But in his work, he was trying to find a word to explain this Jewish idea of Yom Kippur from the Hebrew scriptures. Now, literally, that is something like the Day of Covering. But he came up with at-one-ment, or the moment of being made at one with God. Now, is that a good translation of Yom Kippur? That's complicated. The Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Hebrew scriptures, thought it primarily had to do with a day of prayer. And the Latin translation, called the Vulgate, thought it was focused on a day of cleansing. Jewish scholars today still wrestle with how to translate the idea into English. But I think the consensus would be that atonement is not a bad attempt, but it's also maybe incomplete. The major critique from Jewish scholars, as I understand it, would be that at-one-ment can suggest a sort of meeting of the minds, a sort of like reconciliation a bit, where the structure of Leviticus 16, where the Hebrew term comes from, suggests that this covering, whatever that means, is the unilateral action on behalf of God. So we don't meet God in the middle, we enact the ritual, and it is God that does the at-oneing. Regardless, whether that atonement is a good translation in Leviticus, over time, it is a word that primarily became associated with the Christian veneration of the cross. Christians saw parallels between what the Jewish people believed was happening on the Day of Kippur with what we saw happening on the cross. And so at-one-ment made the jump across the Testaments. Now, ultimately, debates about the Hebrew scriptures aside, I think atonement is a fantastic word to describe what we trust as Christians, particularly when we hold it as graciously and open-handed as it has been historically. We are made at one with God through Jesus. I love that. Still, that does lead to questions about how we think that at-one-ment is happening. And that's where our theories come in.